Bows are without a doubt one of the most popular weapons in Toramonline, and for good reason. Not only do they offer a safe playstyle, but they also pack a serious punch with their high damage potential. If you're someone who enjoys playing as a ranged class with the ability to deal massive damage, then the bow may be the perfect weapon for you. Hello everyone, I'm Baku, and this is the Beginner's Guide to Bow. The bow, in my opinion, is one of the strongest and superb weapons in Toramonline. It is an excellent weapon choice due to its ranged capabilities, which allows them to attack enemies from a safe distance. Bows can also use elemental arrows, which allows them to adjust on the enemy's weak element, making the bow a weapon with high damage output potential. In this video, I will teach you all the necessary knowledge and skills to use the bow effectively and assist you in becoming a pro archer in Toramonline. Before we go through bow's playstyle, let's talk about its skills first. So just like the other weapons, bows or the shot skills are divided into 5 tiers, unlocking each tier as you level up. Let's quickly go through all of them, starting off with Tier 1, Power Shot, Bullseye, MOBA Shot, Sneak Attack, and Shot Mastery. Power Shot stands still and charges for a powerful shot. Successfully hitting this skill has a chance to tumble the target. Keep in mind that this skill has a charge time, leaving you vulnerable to both damage and interruptions while charging. For these reasons, I don't recommend using it, especially considering its mediocre damage. Bullseye hit the target with 3 consecutive shots, with each shot being stronger than the previous ones. Also, a bullseye is a focused shot in a spot, so it has a physical pierce. What a nice detail. Do note about this skill, as we're gonna come back on this later. MOBA Shot fires a sticky arrow at the target, which has a chance to inflict the slow effect. The slow effect arrow procs deals significantly higher damage than the non-slowed one. Sneak Attack turns aggro away, as after using this skill, your next attacks will not generate aggro. This might sound good, but it's useless, since most tanks have a huge threat / aggro gen. Shot Mastery, Bows and Bogans Weapon Mastery, increases attack when using bows and bogans, so it is definitely necessary to max out this skill. Proceeding to Tier 2 skills, we have Arrow Rain, Paralysis Shot, and Long Range. Arrow Rain unleashes a barrage of arrows from above, striking the enemy repeatedly. At level 10, this skill hits 8 times. Also, do note that this can't be affected by any other damage modifiers, as this skill is considered as a placed skill. Paralysis Shot shoots a poisoned arrow on the enemy that has a chance to inflict paralysis to the target. And just like MOBA Shot, it's a dual element, and the damage is higher if the enemy gets paralyzed. We'll talk about dual element later. The last skill for Tier 2 is the passive Long Range. Increases the damage of all skills that have a max cast range of 8 meters above, regardless of where they are used. Proceeding to Tier 3, we have Snipe, Smoke Dust, Quick Draw, and Fatal Shot. Snipe snipes the enemy's weak point, which has a chance of inflicting armor break. This skill has a charge time that can only be shortened by leveling the skill. This skill is very good in shredding the enemy's defense. Smoke Dust fires a smoke bomb on the target, which has a chance to inflict blind. Again, pretty similar to MOBA and Paralysis Shot. It's a dual element, and the damage is stronger when the effect is inflicted. The next one is the passive Quick Draw. Whenever you use an attacking skill that consumes MP, you have a chance to recover an MP back. The last skill for Tier 3 is the Fatal Shot. Shoots the enemy with a strong high crit, but low accuracy attack. And if this skill successfully hits while the boss is in breakable state, the tap timer will be extended. Finally, moving on to Tier 4, we have the legendary Crossfire, Arm Break, and Decoy Shot. Crossfire, one of the most broken skills in the game. This skill has two parts, the charge and release. The first cast of Crossfire requires 400 MP and will charge it. The charge level increases over time, with a maximum of 5 levels. Then after the first cast, the release part will not cost any MP and deal huge damage depending on the level of charges. The next skill is Arm Break. Targets the enemy's arm and has a chance to inflict lethargy. Again, it works the same as the MOBA shot and others. Dual element and damage is stronger if the effect is inflicted. Decoy Shot summons a clone that attacks the enemy. This attack does a MPR, and its range is based on the max range of the weapon that the caster is using. Paired with normal attacks, this skill will make sure that MP recovery won't be a problem. Finally, for Tier 5 skills, we have Retrograde Shot, Vanquisher, Parabola Cannon, and Samurai Archery. Retrograde Shot shoots the enemy while moving backwards and marks the enemy's hit with the highest HP. This mark does two things. 1, it reduces their dodge, and 2, every time they're hit with the shot skills or hunter skills, Retrograde will proc and deal additional damage. And these additional damage is triggered per hit, not per skill. Thus, skills that can hit multiple hits like Arrow Rain, Bullseye, and Crossfire can trigger Retrograde multiple times. Oh, additionally, Retrograde can also act as a block skill by holding forward while doing Retrograde. This is just a block, not an iframe, so all the buffs that you have prior to getting hit will be gone, except Crossfire, so I don't recommend blocking attacks with this. Vanquisher, a powerful shot that explodes in a small area, and if there are multiple enemies around the target, the damage gets spread out. But if you're ignited, the skill and its damage won't spread out and guarantees that it'll hit the target. It's more for bogans, but it can work on bow, it's just that it's not that good. Just get this at level 1 for Combo Ender. Parabola Cannon fires an explosive projectile in a parabolic path. Its projectile range is always the same, which is 10 meters, but the direction can be changed with the arrow keys when firing. And if you didn't hit the target, the projectile will become a trap, and its damage increases. The last skill is the passive Samurai Archery, the main passive for bow sub-katana. It boosts attack and stability when both bow and katana are equipped. And using a normal attack with the katana enhances accuracy for the next skill. If you want a katana sub, this passive is a must-have as this makes katana much more reliable. So, that's all for the shot skills. Let's move on to the bow's playstyle. So, bow's playstyle is really easy and straightforward. All you gotta do is dish out as much damage as you can while avoiding getting killed. Bows have an insane damage output, especially because they have an access to elemental damage through arrows, which if you didn't know gives 25% more damage if you use the right element to counter a certain boss. And since bows are all about dealing big damage, most players prefer to build them as glass cannons, prioritizing pure damage over defense. Also, the shot skills is commonly associated or played with the hunter skills, to be specific. The Tier 4 hunter skill, Satellite Arrow, which is another OP skill. It's like Arrow Rain, but on steroids. It's a 3 nuke shots from the sky, which deals a ton of damage and has a 100% physical pierce. Though it might be hard to hit if the target moves a lot, but it's not as hard as Parabola Cannon. Okay, so we're gonna immediately move on to T for Playstyle, where you need to do some skill rotations. For T4, your main skills are Crossfire and Satellite. So, here is why I'm saying playing Bow is brain dead. Once your buffs and decoys are all down, you activate your CF, and while the CF is charging, you use Satellite Arrow, and by the time the third arrow of Satellite Arrow comes down, your Crossfire charge should be 3 and is ready to release. But before releasing it, use Snipe to armor break and maximize your Crossfire damage. Then rinse and repeat. For Tier 5, it's kinda the same with some improvement, as bows can really feel much more like a DPS rather than a one-time bursts weapon. With the help of retrograde shots, you can melt down bosses pretty much easily even without the need of Crossfire. Let me show you. So, it's similar to the T for Playstyle. Once all buffs are set, you can begin by using Retrograde to mark the enemy. Then, use Bullseye to trigger it multiple times and ramp up its damage. For more damage per second, use Satellite Arrow with Arrow Rain Opener. Arrow Rain enables Retrograde to trigger multiple times, further enhancing your damage output. Repeat this sequence and make sure to reapply the Retrograde mark since it only lasts for 30 seconds. Again, to summarize, here's an example of skill rotations. Another thing a bow player should know is range damage. So, in Toram we have damage modifiers based on the distance a skill was cast. We have short range, long range, and a placed or fixed range. Short range is within a distance of up to 7 meters, while the long range extends beyond 8 meters. The fixed range, as the name suggests, remains unaffected by both short and long distance modifiers. Why should you know this? Well, that's because you have to build it. Unlike melee classes, as a ranged player, you can engage in combat at both short and long ranges. However, it's essential to be mindful of the range modifiers you mostly build. If your character primarily builds short-range damage, it's recommended to stay within 7 meters most of the time to maximize the build. Similarly, if you opt for a long-range build, it's advisable to maintain a distance of at least 8 meters. Range damages are not the only ones with duality. We also have dual elements. Like what we've talked about earlier, there are some skills in bows that are considered dual elements. So what is a dual element? Dual elements are mostly on the skills that resemble or imitates an element. Like the MOBA shot, which imitates a sticky liquid, thus it's a water element. Or smoke dust, which resembles a smoke screen, thus a dark element. So, in short, these skills have a built-in element on them. So how will it work with elemental arrows? Well, even though it has its own element, it'll still gain the element from the equipped arrow. I said gain, not use, because depending on which element deals more damage on the boss is what will be calculated as its damage. Thus, it's called dual element. Let's finally talk about bows' optimal skill distribution. So for bows, there's really not much of an option besides dexterity over strength. Dexterity gives bow its high attack and accuracy. As a bow player, you need to have as much raw power as possible, since your skills are heavy hitters and all scales in Dex stat. Strength now is for crit damage and a little bit of attack. You need to also build crit damage so that your crits deals much more damage. So, let's now move on to gears. Bows are one of the cheapest class you can build for the insane value you can get from it. That's why so many players are using them. For weapon, I absolutely recommend using a player stat bow with full attack and crit stats. Or much even better, DTE bows for more damage, if you can get your hands on one. There really aren't many good NPC-made alternative bows, but if you're really on a tight budget, here are some bows that you can use. For X-Tools, the best in slot is Mimugon, as it increases your attack by a lot. It also increases Dex, which is your main stat, so it's perfect for bows. You can also use Pedrio for a huge attack boost, Velum for MP recovery, Devil Dango for Pierce, or even Hexter, but mostly on second slot. And if you're tight on budget, just use Neo Maiden Sword. Moving on to sub-weapons, bows can use either arrows or a katana. Both options have their advantages. Arrows, which are commonly used by most bow players, provide significantly higher DPS due to their ability to use elements. This allows them to deal 25% more damage against countered elements. Additionally, certain skills, such as Satellite Arrow, hit harder when used with arrows. On the other hand, using a katana as a sub-weapon enables a hybrid playstyle of both melee and ranged attacks. Katana sub also gain access to Mononofu skills, allowing for bursty DPS and enhanced survivability through iframes. Though iframes are not a problem with bows anymore as they have vertical air. Welp! In my recommendation, if you prioritize maximizing DPS and exploiting elemental weaknesses, I suggest using arrows as the sub-weapon. However, if you prefer a versatile playstyle with burst damage and survivability, you can opt for the katana sub-weapon, albeit at the cost of elemental advantages. Now onto armor. Player stat works best, especially attack full crit stats, or even better, a DTE armor. And again, if you're tight on budget, you can use these NPC alternatives. For armor X-Tools, you want an attack or range damage X-Tools like Black Shadow, Agiladanios, Sibylairs, D-Dex Fighter, Kafurga, Dr. Pom Pom, Gravisep, or Sharagon. For add gear, the best slot for bows is the Clement Headband, as it gives a huge attack and dex stat. It's also very cheap and is a mob drop, so you should have access to this. And again, here are some other gears you can use. For add gear crystal, I'd say the best for bows are the Evil Athena, as it has one of the most OP stats in a Krista, followed by the Baphometla or Prudent for its 2 ranged damage modifiers, perfect for bows. And again, you can use other crystals like Black Shadow, Agiladanios, or Zivio. For rings, you can go with whatever you want, but I suggest the Machina ring as the all-round budget ring. For X-Tools, again you want an attack or range damage X-Tools like Dominarador, Black Shadow, Agiladanios, Broker Goblin, Stellar Ooze 2, or Gravisep. Also Toragon for LRD. Okay, as you can see, building a bow is as easy as its playstyle. Its build is very min-maxed as you only have to focus on 3 stats, which are attack, dexterity, which is also attack, and range damage. Oh, also, another stat you should also focus that is a general knowledge amongst Toram players is critical rate. To ensure your attacks consistently land on the boss, aim for a critical rate of 100 or higher, preferably between 120 to 140. Though attacks can graze, critical attacks do not miss, and yes, 100 crit isn't enough because some high-def boss also has crit resistance. Okay, now here are some quick bow building tips. Due to limited skill points, avoid wasting them on unnecessary skills. Focus on vital abilities like shot skills. Prioritize maxing out your main DPS skills and passives, as they are the primary sources of damage for your build. Tip on shot skills. You don't need to waste 23 skill points for finale ending. You can just use a level 1 Vanquisher. Then, spend the rest of your SP on other buffs and passives from other skill trees like attack buffs such as Brave Aura, Kairiki, and War Cry, attack speed buffs like Quick Aura and GSW, and lastly, you can't have a DPS build without the battle skills. The new hunter skills, particularly Vertical Air, are awesome. I highly recommend getting it, especially for its iframe. So, that's all for skill building tips. It's not that much because bows are really easy to build. Well, you can add more DPS skills, but I don't recommend it cause bow is already powerful as it is. Well, Baku, how about Botana? Well, while Botana has its merits, it falls short in comparison to the arrow sub-weapon. Plus, it kinda fell off with the retrograde playstyle and it's weak without elements. Just play it if you like its vibe, I'd say. Lastly, we have Regislets, which are stats and skill boosters or enhancers. Here are some Regislets I suggest you to farm. So, that's all for the video. Sorry for the very long time of no uploads and for the length of this video, haha. Again, I tried to make it concise, but since it's a beginner's video, I thought to elaborate some things further. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you've learned something. I'm Baku, and I have a lot to catch up to, so I'm out. Subscribe and like.